Nearbound lead generation is just a modern, fancy way of talking about word of mouth, which is the oldest and still, I would argue, most successful form of lead generation out there, right? And all Nearbound is looking at it, in my eyes, it's about taking that thing that's traditional, and I think people probably take for granted, and moving it from a organic strategy or chance, as I like to give it its true title, and moving it to something more intentional. It's about this thing that we all know and love and happens, and know, well, how can we be more structured about it? How can we do it in a way that's up to date? How can we do it in a way that reflects modern practices in the way we work?
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Dave Plunkett, founder of Collaboration Junkie. He's going to be talking to us about Nearbound. Okay, so first up, Dave, good to see you, sir.
Likewise, Fred, likewise. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's the second. I've introduced you badly. You've been on this before. You've talked to us about collaboration. It is a while ago, it's probably forgotten. But this is a slightly different conversation. So you often talk about partnering and kind of how to do that in a structured way. But you said something that they're about Nearbound, which is a phrase I've seen and some people use, but it's not a common parlance yet. So tell us what it is, why we care, and how we do it.
Okay. No, Nearbound, essentially, Nearbound lead generation is just a modern, fancy way of talking about word of mouth, which is the oldest and still, I would argue, most successful form of lead generation out there, right? And all Nearbound is looking at it, in my eyes, it's about taking that thing that's traditional, and I think people probably take for granted, and moving it from a organic strategy or chance, as I like to give it its true title, and moving it to something more intentional. It's about this thing that we all know and love and happens, and know, well, how can we be more structured about it? How can we do it in a way that's up to date? How can we do it in a way that reflects modern practices in the way we work? And I love it because of that. And when you think about it, it's when you take control of your word of mouth strategy, and that for me falls into one of two territories, which is either referrals from your clients or referrals from strategic partners. When you take control of it and you're intentional about it, you get the benefits of inbound in terms of the leads are ideal, they're ready to talk to you, they're interested in your product, but you get somewhere near the scale of outbound because you're being proactive and you're actually going out and searching for this stuff. And so this Nearbound piece fits really nicely in that kind of trifecta of inbound, outbound, and Nearbound.
Oh, I love it. I also love organic strategy or chance. I like that. So intentional, deliberate, taking control of word of mouth. Okay, and that's one of the things that I know when I speak to you or I kind of see the stuff you're doing, it's always very structured. It is deliberate so that people can get their head around it quickly and can apply it. It's all about implementation, isn't it? So tell us, how can we be intentional with our word of mouth, referral, or Nearbound strategy?
Well, first of all, let me tell you what you don't need to do. Because typically when you say like a formalized
tell me what I am doing, probably.
People kind of get maybe a bit awkward about like, oh, am I suddenly going to have to be overly salesy, overly pushy, for example? And actually, there's two mistakes that people often make, and and they sit in different camps. When you're looking at client referrals, it absolutely, being more intentional is absolutely not about launching referral programs, right? Particularly if you work in the space that I do, which is with agency and other agency model businesses where there are high degrees of trust needed in the sales process, right? And in an age where trust is at an absolute premium, Nearbound is the channel that plays on trust more than ever. But so through that client referral side, what it's not about is launching referral programs. Your clients do not want to join your referral program. However, they were more than happy to introduce you if you ask them in the right way and at the right time for the right thing. And so having an effective nearbound strategy, an intentional nearbound strategy in terms of referrals from your clients and your wider network means building a culture of referrals within your organization where everyone that's customer facing, be that sales or account managers, knows when to ask, has the confidence to ask, and you've got the systems and the structure behind the scenes to support it. So you may not have a customer facing referral program, but behind the scenes, you've absolutely got a well-oiled machine that supports this as a key tactic in the business. And it's about getting that mix right. It's about being more human to your clients, but having processes that sit behind the scenes.
Interesting you say that about referral program, because I've just been reflecting on that recently. I think somebody was asking me, and it's like, nah, I'm not being your salesperson. Because when I have got involved in these in the past, kind of half doing a favor for somebody, it's turned into feeling like I'm working for them. They're following up on me and have you done this and where are the referrals going? And like, hey, this was positioned as something that I might be able to do and could get some passive, for want of a better word, income, but it wasn't really where my focus is. And now you treat me like I'm on your sales team. Not happy with that.
Yeah, and like when you've got proper strategic partners, you can have a little bit more of that structured follow-up, but that's when, because if you're the right partners, you want to be referring them consistently because there's a strong value proposition there and there's a match, right? So, and that's the thing around treating the two main streams of Nearbound. It's about treating them individually and having the right structures and processes around each. Because on the client referral side, particularly, people refer you for what you do, not what you sell, Fred, right? That is one of two tenets that I live by in everything that I do. People refer you for what you do, not what you sell. Referrals are about helping people, in my eyes, to do a really successful strategy. There's something I call situational niching, Fred, right? Which
I like a term. You know, I like a term.
I thought you'd like this one. And when you use situational niching, it changes the whole dynamic of a referral from, if I'm introducing someone to you, for example, Fred, it changes it from me doing you a favor by introducing you to me doing the person I'm introducing to you a favor. And it's because they have got a problem that you're the person to solve. And so it's about when you make your referral requests, and this could be to your clients, it could be to your network. It's not about going, who do you know right now that's this type of business that you can refer me to? Because that's kind of like, just put anyone my way because I want to pitch to them, right? And that's where it can start to feel a bit icky. It's about understanding the problems you solve. Back to that, people refer you for what you do, not what you sell. Particularly if they're problems that you've helped that client solve, and going, next time you hear someone saying this or that, which signifies they've got that problem, then send them my way. Would love to have a chat with them. I'm sure I'd be able to help. And it just changes this whole dynamic from it being sales focused to, oh no, I'm absolutely going to introduce Jane to Fred because Jane's got a problem with a particular sales issue here, and Fred's going to be the person that jumps on the phone for her for half an hour and gives us some advice. Now, that bit of advice is something we would all do as part of our sales process. We demonstrate our expertise. All we're doing is kind of structuring that into our referral request, and it just changes the whole dynamic, because you're not going to refer anyone to me who's my target market. You're going, refer people you come across that need my help. And then it makes the referrer look like a superstar. And that's how you build a culture of referrals. And when you've got a culture of referrals in your business, that's how it scales, because it's not reliant on founders or a couple of key individuals. It's a cultural piece. And I get quite passionate about this because
no, but it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Well, that's why I wanted you, because I don't want someone come on here and like, that's what they don't really care about on board, but it's people who get excited about this stuff. And there'll be other people like me who also get excited about it. And I get excited about the outcomes piece. We sell outcomes. That's what we do. So if I'm talking to somebody, I want to make sure that I can deliver the outcome they're looking for. But if in that process I find that I can't, or they're looking for something slightly different, and I know, like you say, it's like, well, okay, you need to go and speak to so-and-so then. That should just be second nature rather than how can I twist it into you actually do need my outcome? It's like, no, wrong. That is what they're looking for. That's what they need here and now. Get that person in front of them. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And so what we're doing then, I'm guessing then with Nearbound is we're equipping people to know what we do, or being so good at explaining what we do that it's just bloody obvious that he's your man for that, she's your one for that.
Exactly that. I talk about moving it from, and whether it's partners or referrers, it's true with this. I talk about moving it from something that relies on nature, which is that organic strategy. And I love a nature analogy. Like, I don't use war analogies in business or life or all. I love nature analogies. But in terms of referral, nature's not good. And it moves it to one of nurture, where we're... And so it moves it from that kind of people guessing what a good referral is to you educating them so that you get the right referrals. And then you're not labored with those bad introductions that you feel obliged to take the call because someone's referred to you, right? I'm sure we've all had those. It moves it from being something reactive to something where you're actually proactively adding value. Moves it from something that's serendipitous, like just waiting for it to come along, to, particularly with partners or even your referrers, we know when to ask. We know the exact moments that what we do is precise. And yeah, it's about education. And that's the intentional bit. It's not about being pushy and sending swarms of emails. It's just going, we know what we want and we're going to tell other people what we want so that it's easy for them to introduce us. And that make it easy, that's my second tenet, as it were. People refer you for what you do, not what you sell, and make it easy. People are busy, which means if you want them to do something that isn't part of their day-to-day life, thinking back to your one there, your bad experience of referrals kind of thing, A, don't hound them, but make it easy for them to do it, because the easier it is for them to do it, the more likely they are. And do it quick.
Yeah.
So
I think everything needs to be easy now, doesn't it? But yeah, and more than ever, in a busy world with a lot of noise, we've got to be very clear about what we do, and then it's going to be very easy for someone to do something. And as soon as there's any kind of mental friction, then it's not happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's not about everything easy. You've got to make it easy for others. So I think it's about you doing the hard work, right? It's about you doing the hard work so that it seems super, super easy for whether that's a referrer or a partner. And it's the same in partnerships. I talk about this a lot, that if you've got a really strong partner value proposition, I call it, so that your partners understand how you make them look amazing rather than just the value add to the client, the value add to them. And they understand that they want to refer you that they want to introduce you and refer you consistently. Then once you've got that over the line, if you can give them suggestions around how they can proactively refer you consistently and easy, you can start building yourself into their own customer journeys. And I do this a lot. You get people where they partner and they're built into people's proposals, or they come in at pitch stage, and people go, well, people really want to do that. Because when they understand the value that you bring, and so they're going to want to get you in front of their audience. And when you give them a really, really easy way to do it, they'll thank you for it. It's not you being cheeky. They want to introduce you. Just make it easy for them. Kind of do it in a collaborative way.
Love it. Love it. So, okay, people listen to this and thinking, makes sense. Don't want to be salesy. Yeah, want to make it easy for people. Yeah. Or I do not sell. Yeah, I get all that as well. How can they set this up? Because you talked about sort of having like culture and sort of making it all easy. I knowing you, there are some steps. You've simplified this to help people get a head around it.
Yeah. So I would say the first thing to do is decide whether you want to have a balanced Nearbound strategy, right? You want to be working through client referrals and networks, and you want to have partners, I would say, in most instances, particularly with the sort of agency and service businesses that I work with. But if you're not really doing either well, pick one. So first and foremost, make a decision around whether forming strategic partnerships with other organizations or kind of going all all in on developing your client and network referrals is the thing that you want to do first. It's not about saying you don't want to do the other one, but it's just going, which one are we going to focus on first? Because both take work, right? And it's better to do one well than try and do both, not really like half-ass it and don't get the results from either and then go, well, that Nearbound doesn't work. Well, Nearbound does work. It's like, as I said, all the stats are out there, right? People start the buying process with a referral, they convert quicker, they spend more, they stay longer. It works, but just focus on the area that you think is right. And that could be down to things like the size of your customer base and the strength of the relationship with them. If you've got a reasonable sized customer base and network that you've got great relationships with, and and your team have got great relationships with, and it's all very strong, and you've never really leveraged them, well, then that's a sign that maybe that's the way to go, right? Or is it about partnerships? Is it about maybe you don't have a huge account management team, maybe actually what you do, fits really nicely in with other products or services, and you can already, I mean, obviously in the SaaS kind of space, like the channel sales kind of thing, there's the software stacks, it's all partnership driven, right? And so, but if you can see where you can fit in really easily into whether that's a service stack or a software stack or a product stack, whatever it may be, well, then maybe it is partnerships, particularly if you've got a really well-defined niche, either in sector or service, and even better, both, then potentially partnerships is the way to go forward. But it's horses for courses. But the first thing is to pick which one, I think.
Decide, so you can put your focus in on it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what are we going to do?
And then it is about that, coming back to that, make it easy. It's that specificity. It's that, we're not here to talk about niching and all that good stuff, but the more specific you are, the easier it is. So even if you can work with any small business, for example, like for the purposes of your referral requests or your partnership efforts, segment a portion of your audience that you can deliver value to, right? Be that by sector, be that by size, be it by whatever way you want to slice and dice it. Because when you do that, you'll either be able to make it, on the partnership side, you'll be able to go and find partners where you can demonstrate your value much, much easier. You can build yourself into their processes. When it comes to client referrals and that specificity, you can have 4, 5, 6 different people you want to work with. But before you ask someone for introduction, think about where their network is strongest. Think about where it's going to be easiest for them to make the introduction. And that's the introduction you ask for. And so I think pick your lane, figure out your specificity kind of thing. And then the next stage on from that is, if it's the referrals, client referrals, network referrals, it's figuring out that situational niche piece. Like, what's the more human way of talking about the problems that we solve for these different markets? And if it's on the partnership side, it's looking at your potential partners and figuring out why they care about the value you deliver to their clients. Because when you figure that out, that's your partner value proposition. And that's what gets them going, Fred isn't just someone who'd be nice to refer. Fred's someone who I need to refer because he's going to make me look amazing. And then from there, again, it's going to sound oversimplistic, but all the systems and the processes and putting in reminders in your CRM, doing all that stuff, that flows down. At the core of it, it's understanding the value you deliver and who you deliver it to.
Yeah. Going back to the niching, segmenting, specificity, whatever it is. I think that's really important because, I mean, you should be anyway, and all your communication is around that, and that is how you position yourself, and that is what you do. Because otherwise, you're going to make it very easy for someone to say no, as in, I can't. I can't refer you because it's not obvious what you're all about. And for me to put you in front of them, they're going to go, why? I don't get it. Here's Fred.
Yeah.
He works for engineering companies. He talks about that all the time. Oh, yeah, we're an engineering company. Oh, yeah, I can see that. Got it. And so somebody will be happy to put me in front. Whereas if it's just like, if only just the salesy stuff, it's like, oh, okay, we're an engineering company. We don't need it. Or whatever, well, you do. But it's not been obvious enough for the referrer or the person passing you on. And they probably don't make the connection in mind anyway. But it's just harder for them because it's not so obvious. This is why I want to speak to this guy. Just go and look at him on LinkedIn. Oh, right. Yeah, well, I can see why you said that. Absolutely. We need to make it easy.
Yeah, and
from the very outset, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's that FOMO piece, right? People don't like a no, but it just makes it so much easier. And I fell foul of this myself. I didn't listen to my advice, and for ages I was like, well, what I do is so specific in terms of service. It's just referrals and partnerships. But I didn't do a sector one, and my product and services weren't clear enough. And so I personally was very referable, right? But my business wasn't really referable because it's like, oh, Dave's that really good guy that will give you advice on referrals and partnerships. And isn't he wonderful? Which is great for a personal brand, but not brilliant for a business, right? It's not great for kind of going, oh, he's that guy. And then so I picked agency. I say picked agency. A lot of my work was there. I've ran an agency before. I picked it just before probably the toughest 2 years ever in agency land. So maybe from that side, but I was also very clear about how I help people then. And lo and behold, the referrals I started getting not only increased, but they were all the right referrals as well, right? And I think the joy of a Nearbound strategy as well, actually, is it doesn't necessarily confine you though just to those niches or specialisms. I think is a nicer term than niche, right? I'm an agency specialist, right? That is my absolute sweet spot. But we've had this conversation. I've got an engineering client down the road, and it's because they've heard me speak, liked what I did. I can help them. I've had referrals into all sorts of different businesses, and if I can help them, and I want to help them because I think I'll enjoy it, I will do. And so actually, I know a lot of people that will use this type of strategy as a way of testing the water in new markets. If there's a particular product or service that they're launching and they know it adds value, they've got a really, really clear value proposition, then using the people around you as routes into that can be a really, really powerful one, actually, without necessarily having to amend your whole website and announce to LinkedIn and the world that you're now this.
Yeah. I heard, and then I can honestly say I've found, is that when you are more specific, you are clearer on what you say. It's just, you become better at how you communicate. Your message is more on point. You're far more credible as a result. You are more magnetic to those people. But others looking at you going, that guy clearly knows what he's on about. You know, when you speak to them, would it work for us too? Well, yeah. It's usually the answer. Yeah,
you actually sometimes...
But rather than trying to talk to everybody, you don't talk to anyone. Because you're just so on point.
Yeah,
but that's a hard one. Yes. That is a hard one. Similar to you, I've been through that mental turmoil of, oh no, I'll leave stuff on the table, but actually there's nothing on the table. You know, the table hasn't got as much on it as you want because you're trying to talk to everyone. You suddenly go, right, everyone's here. And they're talking to you about your thing. Well, actually, no, get that right. They're talking to you about their thing because that's who they see you are. So when he talks about their thing, but others are looking at it and going, well, will that work for us? Yeah. Would.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, though. It is a tough one. It's a battle. And I totally get it when people are saying, oh, no, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'd highly recommend it, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And
having wasted part of my life trying to get it right.
It feels liberating, right? It feels genuinely liberating, and it helps every form of messaging and marketing, and therefore and sales. But yeah, it's especially powerful. It's especially powerful in a Nearbound strategy where you need to be memorable. You need to stick in someone else's mind, despite the fact they've got their own business and their own family and their own everything else. If you're going to be memorable, you need to be specific.
Yeah. One of the things I found quite liberating is that when people say, yeah, but it's not like that. So well, I wasn't talking to you anyway. I think that's just me. It's a reflection on my character. But it is, because you have to say certain stuff.
Well,
The world of sales is massive. People who say, oh, I put something about cold calls is a really small part of selling. Oh, no. Okay, it's a big part of selling for you. You're an SDR. It is 90% of your job. But I don't talk to you. I'm talking to VPs at engineering companies where actually they know their customers. They've probably got a pass to go in and see them. It's carrying on the conversation in a different way on a 4-year, 5-year sales cycle. It's just different. That's what I'm talking to. So it might not make sense to you. I don't care.
But I think that's the thing about a magnet. You spoke about being a magnet before. And this is a lesson that, again, I've learned probably more over the last year, is a magnet repels. The whole point of a magnet is attract what it attracts and it repels what it doesn't. And sometimes there can be a danger, particularly if you're someone who thrives on relationships like you and I do, there can be this danger of wanting to just attract. Actually, repelling is a powerful thing, right? It's about, and that's what a magnet should do, isn't it?
Rather be so weak, it's not pulling anything towards it, or you just think, well, it's just a piece of metal.
Yeah.
Powerful magnet, people are coming in, but he's going to push some people away. And you're probably attracting the people you're attracting because it's pushing the people away. It's a push it. That's something I've really started to kind of
think when you have that, but I think what that also done is that looks you, and kind of bringing it back to a Nearbound strategy, is that when you've got that clarity, and that's there in your messaging and things, particularly as you scale, the whole point of Nearbound is not just this quaint thing that, oh, no, yeah, we get referrals, and that's how we got business at the start. It's about scaling the strategy as you scale, right? And the larger you get, or the larger the clients you're after, yes, people do business with people they know, like, and trust, or like people do business with and refer people to, and people they know, like, and trust, all things being equal. It shortcuts that process, but it doesn't negate it completely, right? So actually it becomes part of the marketing mix, and it ties in with your overall brand marketing. It ties in with what your salespeople and your SDR are doing. It's about going, no, word of mouth is not this thing that happens organically by chance. And isn't it a nice bonus when a referral lead drops in? No, it should be a fundamental pillar of your sales and marketing and lead gen strategy, and therefore needs to be included within the broader context. And that's the difference between having a Nearbound strategy where you take this stuff seriously and having an organic word of mouth referral chance based thing.
So I've written down here, I don't know whether you actually have a test on this or it's like you have a referability index. Does such a thing exist that you can kind of take a test and go, if you've got these bits in place, you are pretty referable, and the system you want to deploy will work well? Almost. Is this work in progress? What's on your desk?
No, it's soon to be there. A partnership one, and then the partnership one's closest. But I know, but the referrer one is very soon to come as well. So actually, yeah. Maybe, but if not, there'll be one from this particular corner of the world.
That's not bad. Yeah, you working on that. So great minds, mate. Awesome. So now I can have a bit of fun on this because time has just flown, as it always does when we're chatting.
Yeah.
Where can people get in touch with you to establish their referability? No, seriously, where can people get in touch with you? Because I'm sure you're saying stuff here which is resonating, and people are thinking, yes, I get it, I like it, I want to explore it a little bit further and take what he's saying and kind of put it into what I do. Where can we get in touch?
Cool. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Dave Plunkett. There aren't that many Dave Plunketts, and there certainly isn't many that look like this. And the Collaboration Junkie logo is all over my profile, funnily enough. I talk quite a lot about partnerships and referrals and all things Nearbound on there. Or head to collaborationjunkie.com. You'll find various articles, blogs. You'll find how I actually support businesses in terms of paid for work. And also I run a bunch of masterclasses and free events people can come along to and just delve a little deeper into the hows of these, rather than the wonderful conversation that we've had today, putting a little bit more meat on the bone.
Yeah, no, because they're usually about an hour long, aren't they? And you give your process away.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
We want people to do this stuff better. Awesome. I will drop those links into the show notes so people can find them dead easy and click straight through. If you're going to connect on LinkedIn, then do say that you heard us chatting today. But Dave, brilliant. Thank you for coming along and sharing that. I do think this stuff is very much of the moment. People will benefit, I am sure.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for listening, if you have.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the Collaborative Selling Scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.